Joel Miller versus Rick Grimes. Two loving dads thrown into horrifying zombie apocalypses, transformed into lethal killers who will do anything to protect their family and friends. But in a fight against each other, well, who's going to be the last one standing? Let's get into it. Joel Miller is a survivor in post-apocalyptic America, after the world's been ravaged by the cordyceps virus, transforming basically everyone into bloodthirsty zombies. After losing his daughter Sarah during the outbreak, Joel became a ruthless and cynical smuggler, before eventually being tasked with smuggling and protecting Ellie, a young girl who might just be the key to mankind's survival. Along the way, well, Joel rediscovered what it means to be a father. As a hardened survivalist, Joel displayed terrifying intensity, strength, cunning, and fierce fist-fighting prowess. He could outbrawl and overwhelm opponents half his age with just a few punches. He could literally beat people to death with his hits. Same applying to the infected too, just turning their heads into mush with his bare hands. It's to the point where people are terrified to face off against Joel, either running away or begging for their lives when he's coming. And for good reason too. Joel is strong enough to take down a bloater, which is simply a machete. Joel's also super tough. He just refuses to quit. He's taken car crashes, some pretty big falls, and brushed off all sorts of attacks. Really up to the point where Joel can be tackled and knocked around by runners and bloaters. He survived being shot, and of course, survived being impaled all the way through, although that one really did nearly take him out. Joel's not just a dangerous and ruthless fighter, but he's also an expert at using a whole bunch of different weapons, ranging from handguns to rifles to bows, all of which were just absolutely lethal in his hands. He's also really skilled with all sorts of different melee weapons, but prefers to use his machete if he's got one available. And worst comes to worst, Joel's also an expert at crafting weapons on the fly. And not just melee weapons either. He's actually regularly building explosives or Molotov cocktails, all of which he's more than willing to use in fights. With his decades of survival and fighting experience, Joel has actually proven himself to be quite a tactician. While Joel can overcome overwhelming odds just by running headfirst into and beating everyone, well, he can also definitely be covert when he wants to be. He's surprisingly stealthy, can regularly take out skilled survivors with sneak attacks, and actually always has a pretty good idea of what's happening around him just by focusing in on noises. End of the day, Joel is one of the best survivors in any zombie apocalypse out there, and a true force to be reckoned with. Rick Grimes, formerly a police officer in Atlanta, was shot during an encounter and placed into a coma. When he woke up, well, the world was unlike anything he'd ever seen before. The dead were roaming the earth, eating everything in sight, and humans were killing each other over resources. Rick put his family first and sought to survive in this strange new world. Along the way, he lost a hand, he lost his wife, he lost his daughter, he lost his lover, he lost his second wife, he lost dozens of people he called his friend. And despite it all, Rick Grimes has never given up. He knew he didn't want to be a savage killing others to survive. Instead, he wanted to create a world where his son Carl could grow up without fear, a world where humans could start living again. And it's because of this that Rick Grimes becomes the ultimate symbol of hope for those seeking to survive, even 20 years into this dreadful new world. Rick is a survivor through and through, and he's definitely a physical force to be reckoned with. He can overpower most everyone he goes up against, knocking them around with his attacks, even choking the life out of them with just one hand. Trust me, you really don't want to make Rick angry. He's a whole different animal when he gets to be a bit pissed off. will relentlessly attack and overpower anyone in his way without even a second thought. He goes straight berserker mode. He's also definitely a tough man to put down, in part because he'll eventually just get angry enough to where he'll keep on going through anything. But seriously, Rhee survived all sorts of attacks, including being shot, having his hand cut off, and he kept on going through all of it. Rhee's main attribute is that he's just absolutely unrelenting. He's almost too brave and stubborn for his own good. Will keep on fighting and keep on surviving no matter what. Rhee's also a very, very dangerous man, a fighter and a killer. He gets more and more skilled as the series goes on, even gains some legit military training and fighting skill. He could take on multiple men at once, and Rhee has absolutely no problem with fighting dirty. The man is just relentless, becomes almost a force of nature in a fight. He's also just as unrelenting when facing down walkers. He spent several days alone in a prison block infested with walkers, managed to kill every one of them. And that's not the only horde that Rhee has managed to take on all by himself. He's literally taken down dozens of walkers all by himself and battled against whole swarms in the last one standing. Rhee's a very accurate shot with basically any gun, even just having one hand, and will always have his trusty hatchet with him, ready to chop through anyone standing in his way. So, who wins? Well, let's break it down. Now, these are two ruthless fighters and killers. Both of them are able to take on whole swarms of zombies and beat them all with ease, essentially making each of them a one-man army. But, end of the day, well, Joel is coming out on top. Really, no questions about it. For starters, well, he's just undeniably stronger. No question there. Sure, Rhee can hold his own and knock around grown men, but he's been overpowered on repeated occasions and isn't like a physical powerhouse. Joel might not look it, but dude is strong. He can beat people to death with just a few hits. This happens in the TV show too, so not just a video game thing. He's also able to do the same thing with runners, easily overpowering them and turning their heads into mush. Heck, Joel killed a bloater single-handedly by just hacking it to death with a machete. So he's crushing skulls on normal people, he's overpowering and beating zombies with his bare hands, who literally can't feel pain. Then his dad rage is activated, and he's taking down super zombies. You can't even really argue that Rhee is able to tap into his primal rage and overpower Joel, because Joel has that same kind of anger boiling in his blood. He's just as much a force in a fight, so that's not just simply a Rhee thing. Now, maybe you can argue that Rhee is a better and more skilled fighter. Post CRM training, he definitely does get an amp, and you can argue that he can simply outskill Joel. But my question is, what is that really gonna do when Joel just so vastly overpowers him? Plus, even if Joel is past his prime, he doesn't have near the baggage that Rhee does from surviving in the apocalypse, especially in the comics. Because there, well, Rhee's not just old, but he's missing a hand, and even further along in the story, well, his leg is all messed up from Negan. Even old man Joel was able to take on bloaters. So yeah, Rhee's just at a physical disadvantage. No real way around it. I'm also just gonna argue that the Last of Us apocalypse is a whole lot scarier and deadlier than The Walking Dead. And with those type of infected, will just naturally make stronger and more capable fighters and survivors than The Walking Dead. I mean, you're talking about runners, stalkers, clickers, bloaters, even some worse stuff out there. And you're having to fight a lot of it while wearing a gas mask, limiting your breathing and your sight. Joel should be just much more capable than Rhee because of everything that he's been through. limit it to just TV show versions of Rick and Joel, and Rick wins. Which, I mean, does make sense. Rick's got decades of feats, and Joel has one season. But make it composite for both characters, and Joel is absolutely stomping this fight. No question about it. Rick's a force of nature, and you definitely don't want to get on his bad side, but he's more than met his match in Joel. Joel wins.